When you think of early 2000s football, what do you think of? Tom Brady and the New England Patriots forming the dynasty, Peyton Manning and the Indianapolis Colts having those historic offenses, or maybe even the running back game at the time when you had guys like LT, Priest Holmes, and Jamal Lewis all fighting for the top spot, and probably many other great things. But the one thing that we tend to forget about, even the media, was the great defenses at the time, like the Ravens, or even the Buccaneers and the Raiders, or even the 2005 Jacksonville Jaguars that get swept up under the rug. The thing is, this unit only had one Pro Bowler, and they were 12-4. And the thing is, they just fade away in history. But in today's video, I'm going to be talking about the 2005 Jacksonville Jaguars and how they changed the game. So what's good, YouTube? It is the one and only Fourth and Goal, better known as Rick. We are back again with another video talking about the 2005 Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, if you don't know, I gotta give you some context, okay? So in 2004, the Jacksonville Jaguars fired their longtime head coach, Tom Coughlin, who was very strict, defensive oriented, and they brought in another guy semi like that, Jack Del Rio. Now this was Jack Del Rio's first time being the head coach. Previously he was a linebackers coach, I think it was a defensive coordinator, but yeah, this is his first time running an actual team. In his first year he went 9-7. I believe they missed the playoffs, but in 2005, which we're going to be talking about, they went 12-4. But lost in the wild card round to the New England Patriots 28-3. So we gotta introduce this team, this defense, and their stats and everything. So introducing this team, at the front four you had Reggie Hayward, Marcus Stroud, John Henderson, and Paul Spicer. And this was the defense's bread and butter, was his front four. Marcus Stroud making his first Pro Bowl. John Henderson was pretty much a Pro Bowler at this time, but he did make Pro Bowls after this year in 06 and 07, I believe, in 08 or whatever. But those two were pretty much the bread and butter, the most dominant defensive tackle duo pretty much ever up until this point in the NFL and probably in history. But moving on to the linebacker core, you had Akin Alodil, I think how you say his name. You had Mike Peterson and Daryl Smith. But Mike Peterson and Daryl Smith, pretty much the two best linebackers. Mike Peterson, he was a tackle hungry beast. And then in the secondary you have Rasheem Mathis, Deion Grant, Deke Cooper, and Kenny Wright, which we all know Rasheem Mathis, man, bro was balling back in the early 2000s, interception king. But Deion Grant, man, very underrated, goes under the radar, really solid safety from the early 2000s. But the thing is, with this defense, nothing really was eye-popping individual stats, right? Again, Mike Peterson, he had 132 total tackles, 10 tackles for loss, 6 sacks, and 3 interceptions, Didn't make a Pro Bowl, no All-Pro voting, nothing. Before I move forward, I just wanted to say he actually did make the All-Pro second team as a middle linebacker in 2005, so that's my bad. Okay. Reggie Hayward, 8.5 sacks. He led the team in sacks and 10 tackles for loss. These are really good numbers, but not good enough to solidify yourself at the top 10, top 5. And Paul Spicer, 7.5 sacks. Pretty good. Rasheem Mathis, 5 interceptions, 1 touchdown, nothing. And Terry Cousin, which pretty much he got hurt after like 5 games, but he had 4 interceptions in 5 games pretty much. And again, looking at the 2005 sack leaders, 16 sacks was the top of the list, and pretty much just to crack the top 10, top 12, you had to have 10.5 sacks, and Reggie Hayward had 8.5 sacks. So why am I making this video? Why am I talking about these stats? None of these guys are top 10. They only had 1 Pro Bowler. And I think that's the point. The fact that this team only had 1 Pro Bowler and had a top defense in the NFL. Looking at this team just as a whole, as a team defensively, they were pretty much top 10 in everything. As you can see right here. They finished top 5 in pretty much every major stat. Being 5th best in scoring, they were 7th best in passing yards, but they were 7th worst in passing touchdowns, 6th best in interceptions. Takeaway, they were 15th overall, Rushing touchdowns, rushing yards, 14th. But rushing touchdowns, they were league best, only allowing 4 total rushing touchdowns, man. And just again, as a team, defensively, this team dominated when they all play together. All had the right clicks and things like that. So I think that's why I'm making this video. So as you can see, this team is pretty much really good at stopping the run. And in week 1, when they played the Seattle Seahawks versus Sean Alexander, which at the time he was pretty much one of the league's best running backs, they shut him down, didn't let him crack 100 yards. If that's a fluke, when they played the Ravens, they locked down another top running back in Jamal Lewis, and they also had 3 or 4 sacks on their quarterback. And same thing versus Seattle, where they shut down the run game. Then they also shut down the passing game, just showing off that dominance, showing off their depth and things like that. And so again, as good as this defense was, this offense was the complete opposite. Now again, they went 12-4, and just highlighting some of their losses and even the wild card loss, this offense was very stagnant and at times the worst in the NFL. So in week 2, they played the Indianapolis Colts, and as you can see right here, the Colts, they were top 5 in pretty much every major stat. 2nd in points per game given up, 3rd in passing touchdowns given up, 4th in rushing touchdowns, and 4th in sacks. But in week 2 again, the Jaguars had 3 points. They gave up 6 sacks and only had 198 passing yards. Again, very, very terrible. I mean, if this offense was just a little bit just average versus these really good teams or the really good defensive teams, they probably would have won the division, went 13-3, 14-2 maybe. But moving on to another elite team at the time, the Denver Broncos, where again, the Broncos were really elite. They were 2nd in rushing yards, 7th in rushing touchdowns given up, 4th in takeaways, and 3rd in the NFL in points per game given up. And so the Jaguars, again, they struggled versus another top tier defense, only having 3 points, and they had 21 minutes in time of possession to the Broncos 38, and only had 12 freaking rushing yards. And now, even watching this game, the offense looked very, very stagnant. They have 4 total turnovers. It's a big struggle, man. And just again, if this team if the offense was just average or even just above average, I think they would have won. 21 minutes in time of possession, that is terrible. But moving on to the wild card game, which it gets even worse, because again, the Patriots, they were good in 05, but their defense was a step back, as you can see right here. The Patriots, they were 3rd in rushing yards a carry, but they were bottom 5 in passing touchdowns and in interceptions, and 2nd worst in takeaways, man. And you guessed it, man, the Jacksonville Jaguars, they struggled once again versus this time a pretty mediocre defense, right? 3 points. They went 1 for 12 on 3rd down, which is unacceptable. That's whoa. And 6 sacks were given up. And just again, if the offenses were just above average, they probably would have won this game. 1 for 12 on 3rd down. You couldn't convert on 3rd down. Okay. Even just watching this game, a lot of these 3rd downs were manageable. A lot of these 2nd downs, they were manageable, but they just couldn't move the ball. Very stagnant. And part of it is coaching. Part of it is Jack Del Rio, which I think he is a really good defensive coordinator even now, but just this is just very unacceptable. And so pretty much this was a story for the Jacksonville Jaguars in the 2000s. They had a really elite defense, really depth. They had depth, everything like that, but the offense was very, very stagnant. It wasn't until they got Maurice Jones-Drew, I think the year after this, but Maurice Jones-Drew obviously didn't just take off his first year. It took him a while to develop, and obviously he retired a little early. But once he really took off, the defense started to age, and they lost some pieces. And it's sad and unfortunate that this defense is lost in history. We don't talk about this defense because, again, only having 1 Pro Bowler, having 1 All-Pro 2nd team, and you were top 10, top 5 in a lot of categories. it needs to be talked about, and this is the point of this video, man. I'm about to sign out. Thank you guys for watching this video. If you like this content, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. I got more videos like this popping out. We out, man. Peace.